If you take a plane over the northern coast of Brazil, you expect to see one thing: green. For thousands of miles, the Amazon rainforest dominates the view. It is a thick, dark canopy of trees that seems to go on forever. It is humid, loud with the sounds of animals, and crowded with life. But as you fly over the state of Maranhão, something strange happens. The green wall just stops. In its place is a sight that doesn't seem to belong in the tropics. It is a massive, blindingly white landscape that looks more like the surface of the moon than the edge of a jungle. This is Lençóis Maranhenses National Park. But before we begin, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss our next story. The name Lençóis literally means bed sheets in Portuguese, and from the air, that is exactly what it looks like: giant, white sheets of fabric tossed across the coast and left to wrinkle in the wind. This area covers about 600 square miles. It is a place of total silence and incredible heat, yet it is not a desert. In a real desert, like the Sahara, it might not rain for years. Here, the rain pours down in buckets for nearly 6 months of the year. Because of this, the land is caught in a constant tug-of-war between the dry sand and the tropical storms. It is a landscape that refuses to be just one thing. To understand why this place exists, you have to look at the rivers. For thousands of years, 2 big rivers, the Parnaíba and the Mairum, have been doing a very specific job. They flow from the middle of Brazil toward the Atlantic Ocean, carrying tiny bits of quartz and sand along the way. When that sand hits the ocean, you would think it would just sink or wash away. But the currents in this part of the Atlantic are very strong. They push that sand right back onto the beaches. Once the sand is on the beach, the wind takes over. The trade winds in northeast Brazil are famous for being steady and powerful. For half the year, they blow toward the land, picking up the dry sand and carrying it inland. This process has built up dunes that are 130 feet high. These dunes are alive. They aren't just sitting there, they move. Because the wind is so constant, the dunes shift about 65 feet every year. If you built a house in the path of a dune, in 20 years, that house would be completely buried under a mountain of white sand. This constant movement means the park looks different every single time you visit. Last year's valley might be this year's peak. The most famous part of Lençóis Maranhenses isn't the sand, though. It's the water. The rainy season starts in January and lasts until June. During these months, the sky opens up and dumps an incredible amount of water onto the white dunes. In most places with sand, that water would just soak in and disappear into the ground. But here, there is a secret underneath. Beneath the dunes is a thick layer of rock and clay that acts like a giant bowl. The water can't drain out. Instead, it fills up the low spots between the dunes. By the time the rains stop in June or July, the park is covered in thousands of lagoons. Some are small like a backyard pool, others are miles long. The water is filtered by the sand, making it crystal clear. Depending on the minerals and the light, the pools look turquoise, emerald green, or deep sapphire blue. If you visit in July, you can spend the whole day hiking over a hot, white dune, only to find a perfect, cool swimming hole on the other side. The water is warm, the sand at the bottom is soft, and for a few months, the desert becomes one of the biggest swimming spots on Earth. One of the strangest things you will see in these lagoons is life. You are miles away from any river or ocean, surrounded by sand. And yet, when you look into the water, you see fish swimming. People have wondered for years how they get there. After all, when the dry season comes in October, these lagoons dry up completely. The water vanishes, the sand gets hot, and the area looks like a wasteland again. So where do the fish go? Nature has a few clever tricks. One fish, called the trirra or wolf fish, is incredibly tough. When the water starts to disappear, it buries itself deep in the damp mud that stays wet underneath the sand. It goes into a deep sleep, breathing just enough to stay alive. When the rains return months later and the lagoon fills back up, the fish wakes up and swims out of the mud as if nothing happened. Other fish come from the nearby rivers. When the rains are at their heaviest, the lagoons sometimes overflow and connect to each other, creating a path all the way back to the Rio Negro or the Rio Preguicus. The fish use these temporary water roads to explore the dunes. It is a reminder that even in a place that looks dead, life is just waiting for the right moment to show up. It is easy to think that no one could live in a place like this, but people have called the dunes home for generations. There are two main oases inside the park, Queimada dos Britos and Baixa Grande. These are small patches of green trees and palm huts hidden deep in the white sand. The people who live here are known as caboclos. Their lives are governed by the wind and the rain. They don't have paved roads or electricity. If they need to go to town, they walk for hours or ride a donkey across the dunes. During the rainy season, their lives revolve around the water. They fish in the lagoons and use the water for their animals. When the dry season comes, things get harder. They have to move their goats and cattle across the sand to find the few remaining patches of grass. When you talk to the people who live there, they describe the dunes like a neighbor. They know which dunes are moving and where the water will collect next year. There is a deep sense of peace in these villages. They aren't worried about the internet or the news. They are worried about the tide and the clouds. They have learned that you cannot fight the sand. If a dune moves toward your house, you don't try to stop it. You just move your house. For a traveler, getting to Lençóis Maranhenses is an adventure in itself. Most people start in a town called Barreirinhas. It is a busy, dusty place on the banks of the Rio Preguicus, the lazy river. To get into the park, you have to load into the back of a specially modified 4x4 truck. These trucks have giant tires and powerful engines because the roads are actually just deep tracks in the soft sand. For a long time, Lençóis Maranhenses was a secret known only to locals and a few brave backpackers. But in the last few years, the secret has gotten out. In 2024, it was officially named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is good news because it helps protect the land. When you leave the park and head back into the green forest, it feels like you are waking up from a dream. The world goes back to being normal. The trees are green, the ground is brown, and the air is humid. But you can still feel the fine white sand in your shoes and the cool water on your skin. It is a place that stays with you. It teaches you that nothing is permanent and that sometimes the most beautiful things in the world are the ones that are only there for a season. Whether you go there to hike, to swim, or just to sit in the silence, the Great White Sheet is a reminder to appreciate the world's surprises while they are still here.